Welcome to a Good Enough Lap Guide in the Mazda MX5 at Oulton Park Circuit, your lap guide to move up through the splits. The idea behind this video is to give you guys a lap guide that you can use to build a foundation to increase your lap times. Ideally, if you can get within a second of this lap time, you should be able to move your way up through the splits, win some of the lower splits, and start to be mid-pack, and maybe even take advantage of the leaders wrecking in the top split. That being said, like many of those other tracks I just named, it's really hard to pass here. So this is one of those tracks where you want to get good at driving behind other cars, putting pressure on them, waiting for them to make a mistake, and then you can take advantage of that mistake and pass them. I think that's how most passes are going to happen. If you try and force things here, you're more than likely going to make contact with the other guy, go off track. It's just not going to be the way to get the most success out of your race. And it can be very frustrating. It takes a lot of patience to drive these types of tracks and wait for other people to make mistakes. But that is the way I would recommend you go about racing this track. As for the MX5 itself, it'll oversteer on entry and middle. You want to be really careful going through turn 3 and then turn 5 on that first lap, because you will spin out in those corners if you're not careful on those cold tires. And then it picks up understeer once you get on throttle, so you just really want to make sure you have your car fully rotated, pointed in the direction you want when you get back on that throttle, so you don't have to get off the throttle, let the car rotate more, and then get back on the throttle, ultimately losing time. And the Miata being a momentum car, you want to optimize your exit speed, because it's one of the most important factors about this car is exit speed, holding the speed through the corner, and being able to carry that momentum to the next corner. The weather for this lap was 67 degrees Fahrenheit or 19.5 degrees Celsius. The track temp was 85 degrees Fahrenheit or 29.5 degrees Celsius. It was mostly cloudy, and the lap time was a 1:51.715. Alright, let's get into the lap. For turn 1, the braking zone is where the white line begins to turn to the left, or you can use that gap in between the banners on the left as something to key off of to start braking. It'll be a late apex for turn 1, and then there's that little green square section on the fence there in between the black. You can use that as an indication when about to get on throttle. You're kind of aiming for that as you're getting back on the throttle coming out of the corner. As we're coming off the corner, you can let the car float out wide. Just don't go too far wide or I'll give you a 1X. Turn 3 doesn't have any obvious braking zone indicators, but there is this little dip in the road surface there. You can actually kind of see it in the white line. Right where the track dips there is usually when I start my braking. Going through the corner, it's going to be a middle late apex, but there's this one section of the curbing that looks different from the rest of it. I don't know why. I don't know if they replaced it. It was a natural apex for everybody, so it was worn down. But regardless, the reason that it's easy to find is because it looks different. So just look for that different section of the curb and use that as your apex. And then just another reminder on that first lap, be really careful going through turn 3. For turn 4, you can start your turn in just before the asphalt on the right. It will be a late apex for the corner. There's this little bump or something at the end of the curb, and if you hit it just right, sometimes it'll kind of help your car hook around that last part of the corner, because if you do miss the line here, you will kind of push out wide, and then gives you a bad line for going into turn 5. Plus you just scrub speed. For turn 5, the braking zone will be right at the end of the tires here. The line for turn 5 is pretty simple. Just try and hug the curb as much as you can all the way around the corner. And then we come up to the first really nerve-wracking part of this track. I'm sure it's pretty sketchy for you guys too. There's no real obvious braking zone, but this is where I brake. This is one of those things like I talked about at Circuit de Lebanon. It's a feel corner. You gotta just put the reps in to get the feel for where the braking zone is. The first trick to the chicane is you cut turn 7 pretty aggressively. The car will bounce a little bit. You got to just get used to it, but that'll give you the widest line going into turn 8, and you will not get a track penalty for that cut. Now that we've gone through the first part of our heart attack, it's time to go for the second part, and that is turn 8, because it feels like if you do it right, you're actually going to hit that barrier because you get so close to it, but you really need to get the most out of this corner in the chicane. So it's going to be a middle late apex, wrap the car around the barrier. And then on exit, we can't go too wide because they are pretty aggressive with giving you a track penalty. I mean, if it's a last lap and you need to get as much momentum as you can on the guy behind you, go for it. Get that 1x, don't worry about it. I haven't really tested this to see if they give you a slowdown penalty if you cut it big time, but I wouldn't be worried about a little cut. Alright, now that we made it through the chicane, remember to start breathing again, and then we can do it all over again about 700 feet. The braking zone for the second chicane is about halfway between the 100 marker and the 50 marker. For turn 10, we really need to commit again, get as close as you can to that barrier because that's the fastest way to get through the first part of the corner, and it gives you the best line going into the second part of the chicane, so it'll be a middle late apex, wrap it around the barrier. Turn 11, it's going to be a middle apex, try and carry as much speed as you can through the corner because you're going to want to carry that speed through turn 12 and then all the way along the back stretch all the way through 15. For turn 12, you're going to have a mid-late apex. You can cut here. It's just a little bumpy on the inside, and sometimes it can kick out the rear end. So it's kind of up to you how you want to go through this corner. This is probably the best passing opportunity is coming out of 12. So it's really important that you optimize your exit speed out of this corner. So if somebody does hit that inside, gets a little wiggle, you can take advantage of that and pass them going through 13, 14, and then into 15. Braking spot for turn 15 isn't really obvious, but I like to use this little curve in the white line on the left there as an indication of where I should start braking, and you want to be as close to that line as you can be to get a nice arc into the corner. I find it's best to take a direct line to the apex going into turn 15. It'll be a double apex. You want to keep a tight line through both apexes, and then that'll help you get a good exit out of the corner. If you let the car kind of float out to the middle in between the first and second apex, sometimes it's hard to hit that second apex. You'll have to lift. You'll lose your whole drive off the corner, and then that leads to another good passing opportunity going into 16. So if you mess that up, you're probably going to have to defend, but you can also take advantage of that and just nail your corner. If somebody else messes it up, then you have an opportunity to pass going into 16. So we're going to come to our first apex, which is going to be a late apex. We're going to keep that tight line so we can hit our second apex, which is more of a mid-late apex. If we do all that correctly, we should have a nice line coming off the corner and it'll take us to the curb. Braking zone for turn 16 will be right after this turn sign. And then we'll be aiming for a late apex for turn 16. As we're coming over the crest of the hill, you'll be able to see another one of those green little sections in the fence. I like to line that up. Once I'm kind of seeing that, I can get my eyes on it. That's why I know it's time to get on the throttle. And that's your good enough lap guide around Oulton Park and the MX5. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next one.